Welcome to Six Tackles with Gus. Thanks to Tab. Plenty to talk about, and we're just hours away from kick-off in round 20 of the competition. We're down to the business end of the season now. The Dolphins up against the Cowboys on 9. Hello, Gus.
Matthew Thompson, how you doing?
I'm well. Are you feeling a little better?
Yeah, recovering. Okay.
I've never seen a winter with more people crook. Everyone in the world is sick.
Yeah, I wasn't flu sick, but I was a little bit down for a couple of days.
Well, it's good to have you back. Plenty going on.
Yeah, or nothing going on, depending on who you believe.
So, a cryptic start.
Yeah, plenty going on or nothing going on.
Yes,
That's rugby league. It's a funny game.
What about the boxing last night? Our man Gal.
You got to win. Got to win.
He can go off into retirement now.
Silly old buggers.
Well, Gal's a bit older than Sonny Bill.
Sonny's nearly 40. I think he's 39 going on 40. What's Gal? 43 going on 44?
He's 44 in a month.
Yeah. Silly old buggers.
They've made a bit of dough for themselves.
Well, that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
And my other question for you.
If they didn't really like each other, they could have gone down the park and sorted it out.
Well, they're going to have a coffee now and make up.
Yeah.
It's funny how they do that.
Yeah.
Would you prefer to go to a Masters or a British Open?
I'd prefer to go to a Masters.
Yeah.
Because of the unique nature of that tournament and because we know that course so well and I want to see it live. I want to see it for real. The Open would be special, but it can be so wintry and cold and depending which course it is, whether or not you could actually see all the action. I think I'd like to go and see the Masters because of the beauty of the place and all the tradition and everything that happens there. It's pretty much the same course every year, and we learn it well, and it's still a battle for the players. The British Open would be special to go and walk it. Andrew Voss and I walked around St Andrews one time. We went over in the early 2000s. We went over for a Rugby League World Cup. The final was at Old Trafford, which was an experience to call a game there because we had to sit in the crowd. There was no media box for us, so we had to call the game sitting in the crowd, in the middle of the crowd. And there was 45,000 there at Old Trafford, the Theatre of Dreams. But we had a couple of days off. We were over there for 6 weeks. I spent 6 weeks in Leeds, never saw my shadow.
Miserable old place in winter.
Never saw the sun for 6 weeks. But we took a drive up to Scotland and we took a drive to St Andrews because we both love the golf and had a look around St Andrews and that. But we went and the course was closed because it was too cold but we went and walked it. We found a couple of golf balls and we threw them around the course and we walked the 18 holes. And you can get lost because you don't know where you're going. As a spectator, the Masters. I'd like to go and see the Masters.
Well, I'm a traditionalist. I'd love to go to a British Open. I know they move it around.
It's a great tournament.
Royal Portrush, the venue this year. The reason I'm asking is because I love this afternoon because they hit off. I think it's around. I think they'll be underway now. Our time. Yeah. And they hit off from about 6 a.m. in the UK all the way through till 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Golf from sun up to sundown just about.
Well, it's not close. It's close enough to the midnight sun over there.
That's right. Yeah. British Open, love it. Interesting to see who'll prevail after the 4 days. The last time the Open was at Royal Portrush, it was Shane Lowry, so maybe there's a little bit of synergy.
Did I see somewhere that Rory McIlroy, as a 16-year-old, shot the course record?
61.
Shot 61 on this course?
Yes.
In a tournament?
I don't know if it was a tournament. I did see that article.
As a 16-year-old?
Well, it'd have to be in a tournament if it's the course
shot
record.
61.
It's not bad. 61.
61.
She's age in reverse.
Yeah.
Kieran Foran will go down as one of the most resilient players in the game.
Certainly will. Earlier in his career, or very early in his career when he was at Manly, he was one of my favourite players. A tough, resilient, competitive playmaker. I love the playmakers that are happy to get hit, to weave their craft. And Kieran Foran was certainly one of those. He really put his body on the line in both attack and defence. Probably a shame in hindsight he didn't play his whole career with the one club, with the Manly club. That's where I see him playing his best football. He bounced around a few clubs after that and had some ups and downs. And he's been a great servant of the Gold Coast Titans later in his career. But I certainly remember the early days and he was a colossal footballer.
He burst on the scene, didn't he? With a real
He was wonderful.
Splash.
He really was. He was really wonderful. Tough and resilient, skillful. and very, very competitive. It's the one thing I look for in a footballer at any age. If you're watching a footballer, is competitive. When things are going good and when things are going bad, how competitive they are, how much they love the collision. And Kieran Foran was one of them kids. He didn't spare himself at all.
Yes, he'll retire at the end of this year, and he's had some difficult times to get through as well, but he's come through those, and he's using those experiences to help other people. So a good fella as well, Kieran. We wish you all the best in retirement. There's a few games to go before that, though. Toby Rudolf's try-saver on Friday night has saved the Sharks' season.
No. Well, I wouldn't say it saved their season. Their season didn't need saving, but it saved the game the other night. They don't win the game unless he makes that play. If Jeremy Marshall-King dives first, he had a big lead, Jeremy Marshall-King. If he dives on that ball, I think the Dolphin wins the game.
It's a long way back if they get beat there the other night, though.
No, they're not. You're looking at the ladder. They're okay. They're okay. They're amongst the pack. But it certainly saved the game for them, and they went down the other end and posted another couple of tries and won. But they had a handy lead. The Dolphins come roaring back, and Toby did a wonderful job on that play because he never looked like getting there, but he just threw his big, long, lean body underneath Jeremy Marshall-King, got his fingers to the ball and knocked it dead. Always say the saying, saving tries is better than scoring tries. And it really, not only do you save the try, but you disappoint the opposition terribly. And it really did. And I think it played on the Dolphins' mind for the next 5 minutes, and they conceded a couple of tries and Sharks closed it out. But don't be worrying about the Shark. The Shark, we haven't seen the best of the Shark all year yet, and yet they're still up there. Where are they now? They've still had nine
wins.
They've had 9 wins. So they're still in front of Panthers, Sea Eagles and Roosters. So they're actually, they're well entrenched.
They've still got a bye left too.
Don't worry about buys. Don't worry about buys. They've played 17 games and they've won 9, all right? Now, the teams in front of them on the ladder, Roosters have won 8, Sea Eagles have run 8, and Panthers have won 8 and a draw. So they're actually in front of those teams. They've had more wins than those teams. So they're not in 9th position. They're in 6th position on wins.
Mm-hmm.
All right? My eyes aren't.
I'm not worried about the Shark.
My eyes aren't painted on. Well, you said it saved their season.
No, I asked you if it saved their season. You said no. You got a new eye as well, so you're seeing things brilliantly.
I can see the ladder.
Have a look at this ladder here. So the Dolphins play tonight. They're in 10th position at the moment. They're on 8 wins. Are you prepared to say anyone below Dolphin, and you go then down to the Dragons, who are on 6 wins in 11th position? Are you prepared to say 11 down are out?
No.
You think you can come back from 6 wins in the year and make the 8?
Well, if you win them all, you can. But who knows what's going to happen? Like 6 weeks ago, Panthers were running 17th. You win 5 in a row in this competition, you leapfrog a lot of teams. It's desperation stakes for those. Those ones down the bottom are now really walking a tightrope. Mm-hmm. And there are still 10 teams in contention there, under your theory, for a top 8 finish. So, there's still a lot of football to be played. I don't think anything's really certain at the moment.
What about the Dolphins for and against? They're plus 150. They've got the second best differential in the comp.
Well, they're the most dangerous attacking team in the competition. There's no risk about that. Mm. Really joy to watch, which is why the Sharks did a good job the other night, because they held them scoreless for a long time. And then the Dolphins finally got on the board, looked as though they were going to sneak a win. And the Bermuda Triangle, it throws up some funny things down there. Mm. The Sharks finally got out of it. It was a good win for them, a confidence builder. Still don't think I've seen their best all year. We haven't seen the Sharks' best all year. They have not played their best all year. They might just time their run for the right end of the season.
Cameron Munster will go down as one of the Origin greats. Yes! If he's not already.
Well, he's wearing the number 6 jersey for Queensland. So, that's a pretty important jersey in Origin history. And he's served it well. There's no risk he's served it well, including probably one of the more memorable moments. And there have been a lot of storylines around Origin. It's not just the wins and losses, but there are storylines around Origin. And the storyline now that he led Queensland to come from behind in a series 1-0, took over the captaincy in Game 2, and then unfortunately lost his father in the days leading up to Game 3, but bravely played on. Will become one of the great Origin stories. It'll be one of the great buy stories of Origin, let alone the actual on-field performance of turning it around after being resoundingly beaten in game 1, and then to take over the captaincy and deal with it with his personal life and lead Queensland to victory, and the way they played in game 3 was a tremendous part of Origin history. It really was, and he will be remembered because he's worn that number 6 jersey. He's done it proudly, and he's picked up the shield. It's not many players get the honour of doing that, picking up that shield after game 3.
So he's joined Gilmeister, Lockyer and Smith as players to win their first series as Queensland captain. It's pretty good honour roll, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but
that was the selection that probably it shifted things in Queensland's favour in hindsight, leaving Cherry Evans out, but also making Munster captain. Inspired.
Well, it brought the best out in him. Certainly in Perth, it did. The big transition in Perth because was really only for 30 minutes in Perth. It's not as though they were great for that whole game. They had a 30-minute burst there where they had a big roll of penalties and they ran to a 26-6 lead and ended up winning 26-24. Probably should have still lost the game. New South Wales kicked their goals, they win it. New South Wales lost game 2 more than Queensland won it. But in that 30-minute period where they had possession, Munster and Harry Grant were tremendous. Game 3 wasn't even a contest. It wasn't even a contest. Queensland were just way too good at the basics of Origin, and New South Wales weren't. New South Wales got it wrong, and the whole pressure of the situation, I think, overwhelmed them, and Queensland revelled in it. And leading the way was Munster. So it's a tremendous performance.
Watching the game from your little hidey hole that you've got at a core, where you've managed to, we never know where you go.
I was sitting on the sideline.
Oh, yeah?
I stayed sitting on the desk watching it on the sideline there.
Oh, that's where you go.
Yeah.
Were you bemused?
No, because I've seen it before. I think you could hear in my voice all the week leading up to the game that Queensland have the ability to make New South Wales crumble, to make them nervous and make them crumble. And I've seen it far too often in Origin history. I kept saying, I think New South Wales will win. I think they've got the best team. But I have great respect for Origin history and that Queensland can turn that on its head and they can make New South Wales nervous. And they did. It was a very frantic start by New South Wales, and then Queensland struck, and New South Wales never, ever looked like getting back in the game from that time. Where I sat, where our panel is down in that corner, that sort of southwestern corner down there. So I just turn the chair around and I sit right there. It's right in the dead ball line. Yeah. So all the New South Wales players come down and warm up in front of us, and we're right behind there. So we're right behind Queensland in the first half. And every time Queensland had the ball, it looked like they were going to make breaks. It looked like New South Wales were stretched. What was the score? 20-0 at half-time? Could have been even more. And when New South Wales had the ball, they're running straight towards you. So you're getting a feel for the game.
It's like they had 2 extra players.
Never felt threatened at any time. Like other than the first couple of sets of 6 where New South Wales threw it to Crichton and he made a little break, and threw it to Latrell and he made a little break and kicked the ball. That's what I'm saying. They were very frantic early. But Queensland just steadied the ship, and then there was some really un-Origin-like defence from New South Wales. And then in the second half, as much as they tried, and I'm not saying they didn't try, they did try, but they were just a rabble. They just got themselves out of sync and on tilt, and Queensland kept getting up in their face and kept turning up in defence, and they kept putting jerseys in and around the ball where the ball goes. Origins are different. It's not a club game. It's a different beast, and Queensland just did it better. They were too good. And New South Wales, I think the disappointment of losing game 2 and then the momentum Queensland got was just too much for them. And I've seen that happen plenty of times before.
Josh Hannay, who was part of the team that orchestrated the Queensland victory, will be a head coach next year. We don't have a I don't know.
We don't have an I don't know. We don't have an I don't know. Will he one day be a head coach? All right, we'll give him a yes there, because the dogs are barking. Everyone's talking about Josh Hannay as an NRL coach in waiting.
Billy's written him a reference already?
Yeah, so he's been working with the Origin side. He's obviously got great references from his time at the Sharks. He's been an interim coach at different times. And it seems now that every time a club is looking for a new head coach, they look to an assistant coach at one of the clubs. There are so many assistant coaches in the game today, and the word of warning comes that being an assistant coach and being a head coach are two different postcodes. They're two very, very different things. And being a head coach is more than just knowing the X's and O's of playing rugby league. It's more than just coming up with an attacking structure and a defensive structure and playing the game. It's much, much more than that. But you can't get experience without a job, and you can't get a job without experience. Josh Hannay is being touted as one of the better assistant coaches going around, and as history shows, will probably soon get an offer to coach an NRL team. Now, whether that's going to happen this year or next year, I don't know. All this speculation around, as soon as we get to this point in the season and some teams can't make the 8 or their season hasn't gone as well, we're going to sack the coach. We're going to sack the coach. And I keep saying, well, where are you going to get all these coaches from if you sack all the coaches? I don't know. Sometimes they just get on a merry-go-round and move to the next train station and get off there and get another job.
He's done a very long apprenticeship, though. And I know it's probably, I don't know whether it's an adequate comparison, but he was a caretaker coach at Cronulla.
That's what I said. He was an interim coach. Yeah. He's had experience there, and that's always wonderful. And he's been around the upper echelons of the game, and he could well be a great head coach of the future. I'm just saying it's a different job, like I say, like. If I had to go out and find a new head coach tomorrow, I wouldn't know where to look. It's such a big decision, and the pool is pretty small. So that's why they keep going to well-performed assistant coaches to graduate them to the head coach role. And I don't care who you are, it takes you 4 or 5 years to find your feet as a head coach. And if you can survive that long, well, then you're a chance. I wish him all the best. If he gets a job and that's what his aspiration is, and he's got a desire to be a head coach, then all speed to him and all power to him. I hope it goes well for him. Will he get a job? Where he'll get a job, I have absolutely no idea.
So the segue, obviously, is that Adam O'Brien, it appears, will part way with Newcastle at the end of the year. Newcastle power brokers have effectively decided to part ways with O'Brien at the end of this season after he has taken Newcastle, I think, to 4 finals campaigns in the last 5 years. He had a contract clause that would trigger an extension if the Knights finished inside the top 12 last year, which seems quite generous. Anyhow, so he's on contract until the end of 2027, but if they're to get rid of him, there'll be a big payout coming. So that's the first element of that. The second element is that Kalyn Ponga today, this afternoon in fact, has ended speculation, not so sure about that, by committing to see out his contract with Newcastle. Ponga posted a message on social media, in fact it was early this morning, having earlier held talks with Newcastle power brokers amid speculation of an imminent switch to rugby union. Committed to the end of 2027, Ponga wrote. Excited about the vision of the club, appreciate those that have supported me. So he was summoned to a meeting with the Newcastle officialdom today. They hadn't really heard from him, I understand, since earlier in the week this all hit the media that he had apparently engaged a rugby union player manager to gauge interest in the 15-man code. But for the moment, it appears that's all dissipated. Although I'm not entirely sure that's the case. And we don't really know what's going to happen. But Kalyn, it seems, at the moment, would be prepared to stay there. But it seems inevitable that there's going to be a big change at Newcastle. I noticed Andrew Johns wrote it. I'll take you through some of the stuff Andrew wrote in his column in the paper today, that they're losing a lot of players, Newcastle. I know they're signing Dylan Brown on big money and Ponga's on 1.4 million, but they're losing a heap in the forwards.
Yeah, well, they've just bought a big high-priced halfback for next year. And to be honest, Newcastle have had a slow drain of talent for a number of years. There are a number of ex-Newcastle players playing in clubs all around the league. We often poke fun at Andrew Johns. We'll be watching a game and some fella does something good, and I'll say to Andrew, I said, he came from Newcastle, didn't he? And Andrew hits the floor and throws himself down in a tantrum. With all the speculation and everything that happened, and then around this time of year it gets crazy, and the media speculate about this, and there's rumour mills and people, whispering around corners, and people internally in clubs leaking information that, whether it's true or not, you never know. When these stories sort of broke on Monday night on 100% footy, I didn't really react to them because I've known from history that, some of this could be true, some it couldn't. A lot of it is scuttlebutt. A lot of it is just a little bit of information or a whisper that grows overnight into some bigger story, and then they speculate as to what that could mean, and all of a sudden we're 4 mile down the road and we haven't taken the first step yet. Kalyn Ponga has come out and said, well, he's staying with the Knights, so perhaps that ends that speculation. I haven't heard anything official from the club around Adam O'Brien. I haven't, all that is just, and if they did sack him, what would they do? Josh Hannay can't go everywhere, so what would they do? And would Newcastle at the moment be appealing for a young coach?
Well, that was my next question. If there's to be a rebuild, in inverted commas up there, that would be a very difficult task for a rookie coach to undertake.
Well, it's something a rookie shouldn't have to do. And if you're going to get a rookie coach, there has to be someone in the organisation that takes on that task of rebuilding the club while the coach gets on with coaching the team and building the football part of the business. The football part of the business is an important part, but it's not the only part of the business that's got to be right. The support behind him, the pathways programs, the development of talent coming through, management of the salary cap and management of the roster, relationships with other people and other things during the game. I mean, there's a whole range of things that have got to be done that if you leave all that to the head coach, you'll never get around to coaching. It's destroyed a lot of coaches over the years, a lot of young coaches that they've gone into the wrong job at the wrong time or for the first time. And, usually when you talk to them on the way out the door, the things that beat them had nothing to do with the actual football. They know the football, they know the X's and O's, but everything else beats them. Dealing with everything else that goes on in a football club. And for a rookie to come in and be given that responsibility, and I don't think any head coach should have to have all that responsibility. I don't think any club should give its club over to its head coach. There is a lot that the head coach has control over and gets its say in, but not everything, should be left to him, because every time you get a new head coach, well, then you get a new system or you get a new philosophy or you get a new... how do you ever build your club DNA and what your club stands for and what it means to be a member of your club? That's how I see it anyway. I don't know how other people see it. But anyway, the speculation will be around several clubs who are at the moment struggling down towards the bottom of the competition, and somehow everyone thinks a new coach is going to solve that problem. 9 times out of 10, it's not. 9 times out of 10, the things that got them in that trouble have got nothing to do with the coaching. But that seems the easiest way out of it. Let's change the coach, and he just comes in and he's got the same problems.
Yes. So you make a point there about the coach. So with respect to the player turnover, Leo Thompson's going to Canterbury, Jaden Bailey to Canberra, Kai Pearce, Paul West Tigers, Jackson Hastings, Adam Elliott, Jack Hetherington, all to leave the club at the moment. So Andrew Johns writes a regular column in the Herald. Clearly, Newcastle's been the main topic in the game this week, and he's talked about the club. But he's talked about, and like you say, like at the top end, there's the coach, but there's a whole system in behind a coach. So Andrew highlights the fact they've had 5 recruitment managers in the last 6 years.
Doesn't help.
The club's always, this is quoting Andrew, the club's always been built on local juniors. This year, the club's running 14th in the NRL, 11th in New South Wales Cup and Jersey Flegg, 10th in SG Ball, where the Knights have otherwise played finals in recent years. The Harold Mats are runners-up in May. Andrew says they need to coach the eyeballs out of that group. Inaugural coach Alan McMahon, understudy David Waite, and juniors coach Keith Onslade came up with the mantra: you had to be tough, you had to be able to tackle, and you had to have plenty of tomorrows, meaning you need to have a future ahead of you. They came in with a 10-year plan that by 98, 75% of the Newcastle team would be locals. In 97, we won the comp with 11 of 17 local juniors. It was the same number in 2001. And Andrew goes on to highlight the fact the Knights haven't produced a representative class halfback since Jared Mullen in 2005. He's right. And Danny Badiris was the last representative-led dummy half from the region more than 20 years ago. He says the system is broken. And like you point to earlier, there seems to be a whole bunch of Newcastle juniors or players that came from the Newcastle area running around in the NRL. What has gone wrong there? Like, it's a big nursery, and it's tough football up in the Hunter.
Yeah, and it's a very important club in our game. Newcastle is very, very important for our game, and it represents a huge area. And as he says, a great junior base and very passionate working class people. And and there have been times in their history when they have got it right. They've obviously won a couple of premierships, but it's been pretty dire for a while. I think there was one point there they won 3 wooden spoons in a row, and then they've had different coaches and everyone's tried to get it in. But what I've felt is they've kept trying to fix it at the top end.
Mm.
A new coach, buy a couple of new players, speculate on a few players. The money they spent for Kai Pearce-Paul and young Pryor from England was speculation. They're good.
Will Price.
Will Price. They're good young players, but it was speculation. It was hit and hope. It's. They've now got Peter O'Sullivan up there, who's only been up there not for a long period of time, who's very, very experienced in all of this. But, as Andrew said there, like in the early days where they had those Alan McMahons and David Waits and those sort of fellas, they come from my era. They come from where I come from in rugby league, where we built clubs. Clubs were really important to you. And, and wherever I go, I tried to build a club, and the NRL team will emerge from the club. I have this saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a club to raise an NRL footballer. I firmly believe that. There are other clubs that work heavily on recruitment, but I think you'll see the more successful ones and the ones that have had sustainable success over long periods of time have spent a lot of time and money on development programs and bringing kids through and building a DNA in your club and having a lot of players debut for your club. Even if they don't come from your local area, they don't necessarily have to come from your area, but if they come to you young enough, they're trained as Knights, they're trained as Roosters, they're trained as Storm players, they're trained as Broncos or what have you it is. And invariably, the clubs that have sustainable success have great development programs with kids coming through the system. And it takes ages to get that right. The issue is, why did it ever go wrong? Why did they ever divorce themselves from that? And why do they find themselves in this position at the moment? Because Newcastle should never be away from that. There have been development clubs that got away from it and then realised they've had to go back to it and realised the quick fix never really works. And there are some clubs that have never got out of the quick fix mentality. Some clubs haven't won a premiership for a long, long time because they've been in quick fix mode and still haven't got the message, and it's kind of like, well, if we could just win one, then we'll get back to doing the right thing. It's crazy. But, I feel for Newcastle and I feel for Andrew Johns because I sit there and watch him. It's punishing watching him call a Newcastle game. We work with him. You can see how much he takes it to heart. And I'd imagine that column was written with his heart on his sleeve as well.
Well, it's actually a very insightful column.
Yeah, but he knows the history of the club really, really well, and he's frustrated by it. And I think there are a lot of Novocastrians who will be frustrated by it. And I think from the league's perspective, it's important that our clubs are strong and well run. And Newcastle may have those plans in place. They may be in the embryo stage of this or what have you. I don't think you can just look to the results of their junior grades as that there's work not being done, because I've seen some very talented junior players coming through their ranks. Sometimes the results, they're only short competitions. Sometimes those results cannot be reflective of the actual talent level you've got coming through. And sometimes good results in lower grades doesn't necessarily mean you've got a lot of NRL players coming through. It's just the eye for talent and the development of that talent that's important. But there's no doubt that they've got themselves in something of a speculative salary cap quandary in recent times, trying to get out of the cellar as they were. But they have qualified for the finals for the last few years. They went to the speculation of buying Kalyn Ponga. It was a big investment for him. They've made this investment in Dylan Brown. For better or for worse, they've got him for 10 years for a hell of a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, especially if Ponga stays.
It's a hell of a lot.
$3 million out of their cap.
Well, at the moment, he's not making the Parramatta team. He's playing
hooker.
So, I don't like to see clubs struggle like that. And
the signing of Brown doesn't indicate that they're looking at a new direction for the club with respect to development, does it?
Well, yes and no. I mean, everyone's looking for everyone's looking for halfbacks. Everyone's looking for playmakers, and our best playmakers in the game are all in their late 30s, in the mid-30s and getting towards retirement. I've said this a number of times on this podcast. In the next couple of years, they're all going to be gone and they've got to be replaced. And so that comes down to development, and it comes down to the rules of the game, and it comes down to the way the game's coached. So I could spend hours and hours and hours talking about the development of these things, but everyone's in search of playmakers and people that can win games for you and control and manage games. And So Dylan Brown came on the market and they said, you know what, we need one. We've got to buy one, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I don't know who they were bidding against. They might have been bidding against themselves. But they
Don't you hate that?
eh?
Don't you hate that?
Well, at the end of the day, they've got him.
Yeah.
So they've got to make it work. They've got to make it work. They've just spent 18 months with 15 different halves combinations and can't seem to settle on anyone, even though they've got... So at least now they'll have one spot settled. And I guess in their
But they don't even know where he's going to play yet, do they?
Well, I think he'd be playing halfback. I don't think there's any doubt.
But he's shown he's not a halfback. It's bizarre.
Well, someone up there thinks he is because they've paid him $13 million, Matthew. You know, and I asked this question too. I ask it of coaches, and I ask it of people in the game who have got a passion for the science of the game. What do you want from a halfback these days? What is a game managing halfback these days? What do the good ones do that the younger ones struggle with or they don't? When you say you want a game managing halfback, what does that actually mean in our game today? What is it you want them to do well? Because from where I sit, compared to the older days, the game management is done by the coaches these days. They're pretty much the teams play all the same sort of football. It's structured exactly the same way. The defensive systems are very rigid. The game plans are very similar. The structure of play is very similar. You don't actually have a halfback that manages games like they used to do, 20 and 30 years ago, where everything revolved around your number 7. So basically, what do you want your halfback to do in the game? What if you're going to call him a game managing halfback? What is it you exactly want him to do? We started to bore down into that and say, well, what do we want from a halfback? And if your halfback's going to do that, what do you want from the other playmaker, the 6? Is our halfback going to stick to one side of the field? Is he going to be first receiver on every play? Is he going to come around the other side of the field? Are they going to interchange? It's there are a lot of things. You've actually got to define what it is you want from this halfback, this number 7. And they come in all shapes and sizes, all different sort of varieties. Mm. And most of them don't really mature until their late 20s, which we've seen. So, I guess Dylan Brown, they're saying, well, if all these older ones retire, what's left? Dylan Brown's coming towards the prime of his career. He's still young by halfback standards. So maybe they think they can develop him and get what they want from a modern-day halfback. A modern-day halfback, which is very, very different to what they used to be years and years ago.
Strange question. Would it be in Newcastle's interest if Kalyn Ponga finds another option to let him go?
I couldn't imagine them letting or even considering that unless they got something in return. Now,
a hell of a lot of relief under the salary cap.
Well, it is, but you've got to replace it. And what are they, position-wise, I think Fletcher Sharp could go and play that position and play it very, very well. He's not Kalyn Ponga. He's a different sort of player to Kalyn Ponga. And Kalyn Ponga, for better or for worse, has been the focal point of their attack, for the last few years. And they've been competitive. They've played finals football, and he did win a Dally M a couple of years ago. I guess they thought the combination of Brown and Ponga would set up the rest of the team. But we're not in Newcastle. I don't know what's up in the war room up there or the recruitment room or what they've got written up on the walls and the whiteboards around the organisation. And I imagine they all sit there and discuss their roster every day. And so I don't know what's going on. And this story came out on Monday that Kalyn Ponga was about to ask for a release. Well, here it is 2 days later, and he's not. He's come out and said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying to the end of my contract, and let's carry on. So we'll go from there.
I'm sure there'll be more to come on that. I think he's at least eased a little bit of the speculation for the moment.
So what do you say? He's going to backflip on that now? Is that scuttlebutt, or do you know something?
I don't know anything. I know nothing.
Speaking
of wars, I know nothing.
No one knows anything.
There you have it. What do you know about Rugby 360? I'd heard nothing about it until about 48 hours ago, and now it's taking over the world.
It's been bubbling away for a while. Yeah.
Right.
It's been bubbling away for a while. How can I best describe it?
Someone said it's the IPL of rugby union.
Yeah, it's a bit like a live golf or an IPL of,
Is it Saudi backed? Is it?
That's the speculation. I can't say that for sure.
Oh, give me a contract. Big money.
But it's what they're looking at is rugby, 10-team rugby, 12-team rugby competition played in various countries around the world, and rugby is played in a lot of countries around the world, and short-term competition, probably a 3-month competition, etc., and that they're
so the competition would move. Like it'd be a 3-month competition that would move from venue to venue. So a bit like Rugby Sevens moves around the world.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so it's its own standalone, I guess, broadcasted rugby product. And they'll pay good money to do it because they probably think they can get it back, or they're going to change.
I don't think the Saudis care about getting it back.
Well,
they just burn it.
You've got to spend it on something.
I could find a few things to spend it on.
You've got to spend it on something. But, and then, the natural speculation comes because a lot of our the bigger player manager organisations deal in all sports. They deal in rugby and AFL and cricket and NFL, and so they're managing sport across all sports. So they're well aware that there are opportunities there in this elite rugby competition, and promotion of that in all countries around the world would be great if they could jag a couple of big-name rugby league players as well.
I can't wait for a player manager to toss it up to you.
To be honest, the only thing that sells Australian rugby is when they get an Australian rugby league player to go across and play there. Yeah. It's the only thing that gives them publicity as it stands at the moment. So,
your next 10 negotiations, the manager's going to go, we've had interest from Rugby 360.
Yeah, good luck. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Go and play that if you like.
Oh, it's too funny.
You're silly enough to run off and play that. If you need the money that bad, go and do it.
So Roger Tuivasa-Sheck looks like he's going to cash in for another $1 million this season for the last couple of years of his career.
That could well be scuttlebutt. It could be speculation. He's played rugby. He's coming I take all that with a grain of salt, Matthew. I really do. I mean, there's a guy.
Well, his managers come out today and confirm that they're talking to them.
Well, they may have had an approach. I don't know. I don't know where his situation is with the Warriors. Warriors might have. I don't know. None of us know, but you'll hear some more names coming up in the next little while. As what's it called? Rugby
360.
Rugby 360. Rugby 360.
Yeah, watch it all here on 9. Hopefully we can pick up the rights.
To Rugby 360.
Yeah, we can watch all the NRL players run around.
Yeah. I'm getting a bit old for that, Matthew.
Oh, it's too good. I'm prepared to bet Kalyn Ponga will be playing rugby next year.
Really?
Yep.
Do you think so?
Yep. I don't think it'll be Rugby 360.
Well, why would he come out and say that today?
I think they needed to quell a lot of the speculation. That's just a hunch. The NRL season is here.
I don't overreact to this.
No, you don't. You don't overreact to anything. I need to be more like you and stop overreacting. The NRL season is in full swing. For the best time in sport, Tab has the best app in sport. Tab, we're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
Ask Us. You just talked about the role of the modern-day halfback. Eliza Kelly wants to know, what is the modern NRL fullback's most crucial responsibility? And has that role fundamentally changed over the last, say, 10 years?
Yeah, the role of the fullback has changed a lot over the years, but particularly in the last 10 years, they've virtually become the Minister for Defence. The defences need to be organised. If I can simply say it this way, wherever the ball is played laterally on the field, it can be played 10 metres in from touch, it can be played 20 metres in from touch, it can be played in the middle of the field, where have you. So every time a play the ball takes place, there is space to the left and space to the right that needs to be filled. You've got two markers, and whether you defend two people on the short side of the field and the others, say you've got two markers and you've got a fullback, so there's 10 people that have got to be organised, right? So whether you put 2 on the blind side or 3 on the blind side or 4 on a wider blind side and 5, 6, 7 or 8 on the open side of the field really comes down to the determination of the fullback. And sometimes the fullback these days even comes up into the line to give an extra man in the line, particularly when they're defending their goal line and they don't have to give away 10 metres. But even up and down the field, there are times where fullbacks are very close to the line and up in the line. Organising of those numbers, so as a tackle is made and players run back their 10 metres, a lot of them will take a glance at the fullback, particularly those ones around the play the ball, and the fullback will give them an indication as to whether or not they need to go left and right, whether they need to travel around to a short side or whether they need to come back to the open side, or whether we feel like the key indicators in their side may be wider out and we need to move the line a little bit. So the really experienced fullbacks, and I'm looking at Dylan Edwards and James Tedesco and these sort of fellas, are really great at organising defence lines, and it's probably become probably the key element to the fullback role. Now, obviously,
is it as simple as just matching up numbers?
Yeah, looking at key indicators, you'll have a system of where the ball is played laterally, how many you would like to have, and that may be predetermined before a game depending on who you play against, and knowing their pattern of play, whatever they do. But basically, there'll be points on the field laterally where you'll want 5 and 5, 5 defenders either side. They're in the middle of the field, so let's go 5 and 5, and the markers will react a certain way to help those two, depending on where the ball goes. You might have a play the ball on the scrum line, which is 20 metres into touch. How many do we put on that short side? Do we put 3 or do we put 4? Put 3, we're vulnerable, but depending on what the markers do, in what direction they go from the play the ball, they can cover for that. And then if we see that the key indicators, if 7, 6 and 1 or 13, 7 and 6 are all on the one side, or 13, 6 and 1 are all on the one side of the field, and you know that on tackle 3 they generally go towards Adam Reynolds and then out the back to Reece Walsh and whatever they do, then the fullback might push up and push the line wider, or he might call for another forward to come around. Or if we know a team spreads the ball and if you cut them off at a certain point, chances are they'll keep going the same way down the short side. So we need one of our forwards. So if an edge player's made a tackle, I need a middle forward to travel around to that short side and fill in that hole.
So the fullback's yelling all this out?
100%. Watch him.
Man, how fast you got to be?
The players know it too, but sometimes the fullback will give them an indicator as to whether they need to go or don't need to go, whether they need to go left or whether they need to go right. Or, they'll be working on the spacings. They'll be working, depending on what tackle count, where we are on the tackle count, depending on who you're playing against, depending what he sees from the other side. Where's Trebojevic? Where's Reece Walsh? Where's Adam Reynolds? Where's Cody Walker? Where's Latrell? So that's a fair indicator of where they may be going and what they're doing. And then you've got to be worried about a Damien Cook or a Harry Grant at dummy half and, and who's punching up around them. And there's Jerome Hughes and there's Pappenhausen around to play the ball. We need to defend that before we go worrying about anything out wide. So these are all the things that mechanically are going through the fullback's mind so that he can help the line get better set for the next play. He's counting the tackles. He's understanding the opposition dangers. He's reading the key indicators.
That's before he's even caught a bomb.
Before he's even caught a high kick.
Man, what a job.
Yeah. And then, obviously, from the attacking point, the fullback attacks in all parts of the field. If you watch a Ryan Pappenhausen, a Tedesco, and those sort of fellas who are constantly lurking around the play the ball area, waiting for their dummy half to go or to work with their halfback or what have you, then you get your Reece Walshes and your Latrells who like to get out the wide and get the ball on that sweeping run around the back and play their 3-on-2 or 2-on-1 around the outside. And some are good at some sides of the field, some are good on the other side of the field, some are good at backing up around the play the ball area. They're all different. Look at all the fullbacks in the game. You've got a bloke up there at North Queensland, what's his name, Drinkwater. Completely different fullback to a Dylan Edwards and a completely different fullback to a Pappenhausen. Pappenhausen and Tedesco and Dylan Edwards, Clint Gutherson, the great fullbacks. Young Kennedy from Sharks is a different sort of beast as well, and then Latrell. Latrell.
Drinkwater's like a halfback.
Drinkwater plays 5 positions, and he never stops. He's all over the field, And going back to blokes like Billy Slaters and Darius Boyd's, and Darius Boyd was probably the fullback, the pioneer of the fullback being that really defensive player because he was in the line on the goal line a lot. Most fullbacks used to sit behind the line waiting for a grubber kick. They're back in, eras gone by. But these days the fullback's got a lot of responsibility around defence and organising the defence, call it the Minister for Defence. And then the fullbacks, depending on their skill set, can attack from any sort of position on the field. And they're all a little bit different. Across the board. Young Yongi at Parramatta is developing. Dylan Edwards is obviously experienced, rep class player. Tedesco.
Connor Tracy, if we got him.
Connor Tracy, who's very much, and one of the attractions for Connor Tracy, who, had played a number of different positions and he had a lot of injuries, but I'd always liked him as a potential fullback because I likened him a lot to Dylan. I likened him a lot to the work rate and the effort rate that Dylan would put in. And who else have we got there? Well, we've got the young kid down there in Canberra now who's just a flying machine.
Kyo Weeks.
Kyo Weeks, Pappenhausen was a different type. You get those rough and tumble ones, like the boy over at New Zealand.
Chance
Nickel Clockstud. And
Jareem Buller, he's athletic whiz.
Yeah, There's they come in all shapes and sizes.
We've had great fullbacks for quite a while now, haven't we?
Well, they've become a key part of the game. And they've got to have certain attributes away from just being a good catcher of the ball. And and when you think about it now, they kick a lot more to the wingers than they do the fullbacks. The crossfield bombs, the cage kicks where they kick down into corners to sort of pin them down. Fullbacks don't have to catch a lot of high balls compared to what they used to in the older days,
So given the complicated nature of the role, the modern day fullback now, where would you rate their importance in terms of, like the halfback as, your linchpin and whatever, but where would you have
extremely
the fullback? Like,
extremely important.
They're in your top, 2 or 3 most important players?
Easily. Yeah. Well, they're a key part of your spine. The fullback position and, the balance of power between your 9-7 and 6-1, the balance of power may change with different teams, and so may the payment structure, depending on who's the more dominant one and who's the marquee player or what have you. And that's why they get the big bucks, baby, because they play a very
fullback
very,
money.
They run more meters than anybody else. They organise a lot. They do a lot of unseen work. The number of times they're in position, like go and watch. If you want to just really learn what a fullback does, go to the football and don't watch anyone else. What we should do on Channel 9 is have a candid camera and just watch Dylan Edwards play.
Well, we do that with Origin. We have
and just watch James Tedesco play. Just watch the one player. All right, and clock him up on a GPS and see how many metres he runs and where they are. And when they're in position, when the opposition makes half breaks or breaks or what have you, they mightn't be the one making the tackle, but they're there just in case. And then the ball go back to the other side of the field and they're there again. And then the ball will be kicked towards the posts and they're there again.
Incredible.
They do an extraordinary amount of kilometres during the course of the game at high speed. And then even in defence, when they're up there on the field, in the older days, the fullback just went back there and waited till tackle 5 for him to kick the ball downfield. He went back there, hands on hips, and had a bit of a blow. Can't do it these days. They're up organising the defence and getting ready because the attacking teams, and you've got to know the opposition. You've got to know where their key indicators are and where their attacks coming from them, and the history of their game. And players are creatures of habit, and teams are creatures of habit. They tend to follow the same patterns and same structures at certain points of the field. I maintain, if you give the ball to them at this point, I can pretty much predict what the next set of 6 will look like. It's not hard to know where they're going. That's probably the easiest part of reading the opposition. If you kick it to them in a certain part of the field, I can pretty much tell you what the next 3 or 4 tackles is going to look like. If you give them ball off a scrum win there, or they have a tap kick there, or they get a line drop out there, I can pretty much tell you what it's going to look like for the next 5 or 6 tackles. Stopping it's another thing, and then comes into it offloads and people missing tackles and breaking tackles and all those sorts of things. But for the main part, you've got to know, and you've got to know what those patterns look like, and the fullback plays a big role. It's a big answer.
Eliza, that is the best question of the year. Congratulations. We're going to send you a prize. We'll send you a copy of Gus's autobiography.
I'll be dead when it's written.
You can't be. It's an autobiography. You've got to write it yourself.
There'll be no one.
That'll be a short book.
I'll get Claude to write it.
Get Claude to write it, yes. Who would write the foreword to your autobiography?
Eh?
Who'd write the foreword?
I don't know. Do you want me to get Claude to do it now?
Yeah. What, the whole book?
Hey?
He would know the first of it, Claude.
I'll ask him. No, I won't ask him.
No. Maybe get him ready for next week.
He could come up with something bad.
Hey, I've got another one for you. What is it with this thing now with scrums where they pack the scrum and the bloke's got the ball in his hand and he's about to feed it, then all of a sudden someone comes running in from the other side and he throws in the ball and he feeds the scrum and the other bloke runs off and what's doing? What's that about?
I can't answer.
Where's that come from?
I can't answer. We got hookers defending at 5'8". We got front rowers out in the back. I can't.
You know what I mean? The halfback took the ball, and then the scrum will literally about to be packed, and then the winger will come in, and he'll give him the ball, and he'll feed the scrum.
Someone asked me the other day, would you ever make a comeback to coaching? I could not coach in the modern era. I just couldn't. I wouldn't. I don't know what they're doing. I couldn't coach. They do some funny things.
Weird.
We got wingers feeding the scrum.
Mate, they've been feeding the scrum for 10 years. It's embarrassing.
I can't answer you. I don't.
It looks so funny.
I can't answer you.
It's like they're trying to play a party trick.
Yeah.
But everyone's watching.
I can't answer you. I don't know.
There we are. That is Ask.
They're trying to fake you out.
Yeah, but it hasn't tricked one person ever.
It's like in the NFL, where everyone takes off before the ball's snapped. Players run this direction, that direction, and I can't answer you. It's one of the vagrancies of our game.
They got to get rid of that.
What?
If you've got the ball and you're about to feed the scrum, you shouldn't be allowed to pass it to someone else to feed the scrum.
Why?
Because it's dumb.
Well, I don't know why they do it. They just do it.
Who's it tricked? It's never tricked one person ever.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, most scrums now are in the middle of the field. The referee doesn't ask anymore, just runs to the middle of the field because he assumes everyone's going to be there. And then you've either got 6 out of the scrum and 1 feeding it. Right, you got 6 fellas packed into the scrum. Got one fella for you. Got 6, so you got to put 3 and 3, 4 and 2, 5 and 1, 6 and none.
Yeah.
All right.
So he's trying to trick the defensive.
Now, if the attack lines up 4 and 2, what are you going to do with your defence? You're going to line up 4 and 2 against them?
Well, I'd imagine so.
Mistake. At least they tell me that's a mistake.
Why is that a mistake?
Well, they say you don't do it. You just go 3 and 3. You stick to 3 and 3, and your scrum breaks, and you deal with it.
Right.
But I've seen sides go to 4 and 2 and get hurt, and I've seen sides stay 3 and 3 and get hurt. Pretty good place to attack from if they know what they're doing.
Why don't we just get rid of the scrum?
Oh, please! I've been saying that for 30 years.
They don't even feed it at all. Like, it's not even fed anymore.
Someone's convinced someone that scoring tries off scrums is an attraction to the game, so they just made it easier for them.
We're talking about scrums.
Yeah.
Very boring. That's AskGus.
What about scrums?
Huh?
What is a scrum?
It's just like it's a group hug now, isn't it?
It's a lean-to. It's a lean-to. You'll have centres in the front row, and you'll have lock forwards packing in a hooker.
Oh man,
the hooker at lock, and they just
and the halfback puts it.
They roll the ball behind one leg, behind one, and you can't push.
No, you're not allowed to push.
Not allowed to push, but you're not allowed to break.
Oh, man.
Can't push, can't break. We want the team. It's attractive for the fans that they score a try. We want them to score a try, so we'll just make it harder.
It's a funny game.
It's manipulation, mate. It's ridiculous.
Anyhow, that's AskGus thanks to Tab. For the best time in sport, Tab has the very best app in sport. Tab, we're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
Scrums used to be great. I used to love the old scrums. Anyway.
They were violent.
I'm just a dinosaur.
Violent?
Oh, yeah, well, back in the day they were. But, they used to be, you went out there and you had to push in 20 scrums in a game. You knew you were alive. What was the best? It was a fight for possession. It was a real fight for possession. The hooker in the scrum, the rake, the hooker, it was a real skill to win the ball. There was a contest for the ball. And you had to push hard to get it. Yeah, they were real contests.
So the referee would essentially create a tunnel between the two forward packs, yeah?
Supposed to, yeah.
And the halfback would have to feed it into the
middle.
tunnel, and then it's all in.
Yeah. There used to be penalties, and penalties decided games because you could kick at goals. And they couldn't trust the referees with that, so they took the goal kicking away from them there. And it was just, the old days.
Who was the best striker, like hooker?
There were a lot of great rakes in the day. Very early in my career, I think the first year I played, we played at Penrith Park against the Sharks, and Johnny McMartin won the scrums 26-1.
Wow.
Yeah. He was fairly good
so
on the day.
But for perspective, every scrum was essentially a 50-50 contest.
Well, supposedly,
supposedly.
Supposed to be. Yeah,
26-1.
If you had the loose head in the feed, which meant your hooker was a little bit closer and you had the feed, the combination should get you in there, but it was supposed to be fair. And there were penalties if he didn't put the ball in straight.
So, sorry, could you explain loose head to everyone? Because loose head and feed.
Well, when you lock into the scrum,
Yeah.
right? So the front rower that's closest to where the
Yes.
ball's being fed,
Yeah.
that's got a little bit of advantage because if they link in,
Yeah.
you're on the open side, the ball's coming in that side. So that's a loose head. You're closest to the ball,
Yeah.
right? Which means your hooker is one man closer to the ball than the other hooker,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what they call about the loose head. And if you also had the feed, which means you were putting the ball in and your hooker was, a few inches closer to the ball when the ball went in. And they weren't supposed to strike until the ball went in, and they couldn't get their feet across the scrum. And the front rowers and the hookers would get down low, and the back rowers used to hold on to their arm like that, and they try and twist the scrum and the weight of the scrum, and they push. And if you look like you're losing the ball, you collapse the scrum, so they'd have to start it again.
Man.
Yeah. And then sometimes, I remember Peter Kelly and Mark Brugden one day, they were playing against these young front rowers, and where the other side had the loose head, Buggo and Keller just put their heads together. As if to say, bang your head in between our two.
Oh, man.
And the bloke would go to put his head and go, oh, no.
So that's that awful crack.
Yeah, they go crunch. So they put their heads together and say, put your head in between us if you're going,
What was the biggest crack of heads? Can you remember like a particular scrum or?
No, was Steve Bowden and Mark Broadhurst. That was the greatest crack of heads I ever heard.
Did you play in that game?
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrifying to watch now.
Yeah, you should have heard the sound.
Oh.
Because everyone was sort of paired off and fighting, and then you heard this, and everyone went, oh, and sort of turned around to see what it was. Yeah.
That was brutal,
a thud. It was a thud. How did we get onto that?
I don't know, but
Scrums.
it's good. Bring back the biff. So our Ampol Power Surge this week, which is brought to you by our friends at Ampol, powering Australia's own sporting nation. You've had zero notice of this, so this is putting it right on the spot. Have you seen the question?
No. Top 3 individual Origin performances.
Yeah.
From what?
I'm assuming ever.
Ever?
Jeez, you've given him a job here.
Top 3 Origin performances.
Yeah.
Ever?
What about that you were part of?
No.
No?
Ever. The top 3 Origin performances.
Well, I'm assuming Jordan means your individual Origin performances.
Individual Origin performances.
Yeah.
Okay. Individual Origin performances ever. Well, I'll do it as a group.
Okay.
Wally Lewis's contribution in the 80s would have to rate as number 1.
Okay.
All right. What he did for the game and what he did for Queensland Origin and his dominance during that period. I think he won about 8 man of the matches. But he dominated the 1980s in Origin football. So the king, they call him the king for a reason. Yeah, so the king, that's the greatest Origin performances, a collective of a decade of excellence for Queensland where Wally Lewis led the way. Individual Origin performances. Individual Origin performances. Now it gets hard.
Mm.
Now it gets hard. Yeah. There are so many of them. There have been so many great players. One that stands out to me is in Sydney, Jonathan Thurston playing with a busted shoulder for the last 60 minutes.
And Andrew screaming to run at him and they couldn't get to him.
Yeah, and kicking the goal to win the game from the sideline after, at the end of the game to get them into the decider back in Brisbane. I thought was a heroic sort of performance. Individual performance.
Well, Andrews in 2005 was right up there.
Yeah, I would say, it was up there. I say Alan Langer's return from England to come back for that Game 3 to win a decider for Wayne Bennett. Up there was a great individual performance. They're the ones that immediately stand out. I'm sure there's a hell of a lot more. But for the sake of Ampol, I hope that suffices.
Ampol have got their money's worth this week.
They're all Queenslanders.
I know. They won again.
Yeah.
That's
in that will come, I guess, in time someone will sit here and say Munster, for what he did in Game 3 or in the last 2 games of this series, particularly in Game 3 under the personal difficulty and how well they performed. There's been some great individual performances. Andrew Johns in 2005 where he come back and dominated those last 2 games.
Darren Lockyer surely turned in some...
Darren Lockyer had some great moments.
Pearlers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But they're probably the ones that stand out most for me as individuals. Strangely enough, they're all Queenslanders.
Yes, there you go. That's our Ampol Power Surge, brought to you by our great friends at Ampol. A little break, and then we'll have a look.
Very difficult question.
Very difficult. We've put you right to the task there, and you've produced as always. We'll have a preview, a quick look at the NRLW, and then we'll preview round 20.
Fans always ask, Lozza, what was the best era of league? And I tell them, nothing beats the line-breaking, flick-passing, goose-stepping, Vegas-flying, turbo try-scoring, Origin drought-breaking, simply the best era of footy we're in right now. And with more market stats and insights, it's easy to enjoy the best era in footy with the best app in footy.
Tab. We're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
Round 3 NRLW, every game live and free on 9 and 9 now. I'm calling this one 12:45 on Saturday. The Raiders $1.95 against the Eels $1.85. They started well, Parramatta. Going very well. They improved last year and they're continuing that trajectory. They head down to Canberra to take on the Raiders. 3 games on Saturday. Bulldogs versus the Dragons. Traditional rivalry. That one's at a core stadium at 3:15. Sharks versus Cowboys. That's at 5:15 from Shark Stadium. Sunday, Tigers play the Titans. The Broncos play the Roosters. The Knights play the Warriors. You can hear about all of that in NRLW Weekly with Marley and Ruan. Round 20 of the NRL starts in a couple of hours' time. You can see it on 9 this evening from Suncorp Stadium. Dolphins $1.53 on tab. Cowboys $2.50. I can tell you the team news. Hamaso's back. Now, Jake Averillo, I noticed, was named on the wing, but he's actually going to play at 5'8". So Sean O'Sullivan has come out of that team. Lee Muello has been promoted to the starting team with Finau Fuiaki ruled out with a broken thumb, and Mark Nichols will also sit out, so they've lost a few of the Dolphins. Jordan McLean will miss the game as he manages calf and ankle niggles. Tom McKayla to start at prop. And I noticed as well that the young gun, Jackson Purdue's on the wing. So he's gone from 5'8" to centre and he's out to the wing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, Dolphins versus Cowboys. Battle of the Queensland teams tonight.
Yeah, you know I'm a rap for the Dolphins. And I think that they've got more points in them than the Cowboys at the moment. Although the Cowboys on their night can be very, very dangerous. But I just think right at the moment the Dolphins are in far better form, and I think they'll get the money tonight.
Okay. Dolphins to win for Gus. Friday, 6 o'clock, Shark Stadium. Sharks versus the Roosters. Good game, this one. It's Adam Fanua-Blake's 200th NRL game for Cronulla. Chad Townsend has been named to play 5'8" for his first game since round 5 after Hugo Savala was ruled out of the team. Sandon Smith's on the extended bench. He's surprised Townsend's come in and not Sandon Smith. He seems to have fallen out of favour there.
Yeah, I don't know what's gone on there. So if you remember, Sam Walker was out for the first half of the season and Sandon Smith was playing 5'8" on the left and Hugo Savala came in and made a good fist of playing halfback, playing on the right-hand side of the field. Sam Walker is predominantly, or had his best, playing on the right-hand side of the field. It was probably assumed that when Sam Walker come back, he would play 7 and play on the right-hand side of the field, and I just assumed he'd be playing with Sandon Smith. They changed that. They kept Hugo on the right side. They put Sam Walker to the left side, which I'm not sure that's his side, and Sandon Smith fell out of favour. Now, Hugo's got hurt. I would have assumed that Sam Walker goes back to the right and Sandon Smith comes in and they get on with business. No. They've gone with Chad Townsend. Chad Townsend's predominantly a right-sided player. So if Chad Townsend's going to play with Sam Walker, I'm waiting to see who plays right and left for a start because they both like to play on the right-hand side. Sam played left last week, and is still finding his feet in the top grade, and he'll get better with every game after the long layoff. Yeah, it's strange, but this Roosters team not long ago were very much under strength and put 40 on the Sharks, who pretty much had everyone available. It was during the Origin. Sharks had no one in the Origin.
That's right.
Roosters had a heap out and some injuries and put 40 on them. Where did they play that up? At the Central Coast, was it?
It was.
They played at the Central Coast?
Yes.
Yet here they bubble up tonight and the Sharks are favourites. Playing at the Bermuda Triangle, I know, But, yeah, that's a really interesting game. I've got to believe my eyes. I've got to stick with Rooster.
Rooster. Sharks $1.67. Roosters $2.20 on tab.
Well, the Rooster side is appreciably stronger personnel-wise than it was when they met not long ago, and they put 40 on them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know Sharks come back home, and they had a win last week, which will be a confidence builder, but they did beat a depleted Dolphins team. And I still say we haven't seen the best of the Sharks yet. I still anticipate they will. I do think they'll build into the back end of the season as they come along. But, yeah, just on sheer value, I couldn't take that price about the Shark. I would have to be on the Rooster.
Okay. Rooster to win for Gus. Friday night footy from Combank Stadium. The Panthers up against South Sydney. So Nathan and Isaiah Yeo will be rested this week. Liam Martin will miss a second straight game because of that wrist problem, but Dylan Edwards comes back in, as does Brian To'o, as does Scott Sorensen, who's back from suspension, but Isaac Tungwall will miss a game because of suspension out of last week. Up against a depleted South Sydney team again, who have been, well, their season's been pretty much destroyed by injury, but they do have Latrell. They do have Jack Whiten.
Yep.
But they're obviously battling for numbers once again.
Yes. A real show of confidence here by the Panthers, isn't it? Because, you know, they, along with other teams, are walking a tightrope towards finals football, yet they've left their two best players out of the lineup, trusting in the youth. Now, a few weeks ago, they went without their rep players over to the New Zealand and beat the Warriors, who were in the top four, and beat them pretty comprehensively. I just think the club's on a bit of a roll at the moment and playing with a lot of confidence, so much so they brought Cleary off the bench the other day to beat Parramatta, and they did it pretty comprehensively. When Penrith played Parramatta earlier this year, it was very, very tight.
18-10.
Yeah, but Parramatta could have easily won that game. There wasn't much in it whatsoever, but it was fairly professional on the weekend. Like, there was never any thought, I think, that Parramatta were going to win that game. Penrith handled them comfortably. The market says that as well, $1.37. Yeah, I'll go with Panther to beat the Rabbit.
All right, 3 o'clock Saturday down in Canberra. Not a bad game of footy, this one, actually. The Raiders versus Para. Josh Papali'i is back in. He missed last week. In fact, they have a bye last week, didn't they? They did, yes, so he's back. And Hudson Young will play. He's missed a couple of club games. He's been managing a groin problem, which he had throughout the Origin. And Dylan Brown's 18th man. So Joash Papali will start at 5'8". Again, they do get Riley Smith back at hooker.
Yes, Raider.
Okay, Raider to win. Oh, yes, the odds. $1.24 against $4.10. Bulldogs versus Dragons, 5:30 Saturday at Accor Stadium. What have you done with your team here? So Tilly Tupanua has been named. Daniel Saluka Fafita has been named. And Lachlan Galvin's playing halfback. There you have it. And the Dragons, a few minor changes, but Bulldogs heavily fancied there. Big change in the 7, of course. Be interested to see how that goes.
Well, the last couple of games, Dragons should have beaten the Raiders and probably should have beaten the Roosters last week. So, and they need to win.
That's what we pointed out. They've got to win.
They've got to win. So it'll be a desperate Dragons there on Saturday and hard to beat. All
right. Melbourne hosting Manly Saturday night. Cameron Munster sat out last week, but he's back. Now, Ryan Pappenhausen's not playing, so Nick Meaney is going to play at fullback. And Manly, steady as she goes, with Turbo remaining in the centres. According to our friends at Tab, the Storm are $1.34 and Manly are $3.30.
Yeah. I think the difference in the betting is too great. Look, you'll go broke betting against Melbourne in Melbourne because invariably they win, and they will probably win this. But I think it's a lot closer than what the market suggests, and I think Manly will have their moments in this game. And it's always a little bit too, at the end of the Origin period, when you get to the end of the Origin period, everyone thinks, oh, right, the team's back together. Usually takes a couple of weeks for that combination to kick in and for the Origin to get out of those players, you know, and for the fatigue and what have you. And it's probably why Panthers, through experience, have left Yeo and Cleary out of this one. They were happy to back them up last week, but they've left them out this week because there is a little bit of a letdown for those players. They sort of steel themselves to come up and play for their club, but then, the next couple of weeks can be a little bit down before they kickstart them again and get going towards September. Mind you, the Melbourne Storm have been down this road many, many times before. As I say, you'll go broke betting against Melbourne in Melbourne, but the Sea Eagles are a lot better chance than what the market would suggest. I'd suggest on those figures. I'll tip Storm, but I'm really interested to see how Manly go.
If I had a week off at this stage of the year, I reckon I'd go to Bali.
See, now that's where you and I are different.
Need somewhere warm.
Yeah.
Where can you go that's warm?
There's a snowflake's chance in hell of me ever going to Bali.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you never been?
No.
You've never been to Bali?
No.
I don't particularly like it either, but I'm just thinking somewhere that'll be warm.
Yeah.
Maybe Cairns.
I like Hawaii.
Is it warm there
And
this
I
time
like
of
the
year?
Gold Coast. Well, it's always warm in Hawaii.
It's not that warm on the Gold Coast at this time
But
of
it's
year.
the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
I'm very simple, Matthew. I'm not very complicated.
Do you remember, who was it that someone took a trip to Bali last year in the middle of the year? Oh, that was, remember Bradman Best? He went over there to get a tattoo?
Oh, it's a long way to go to get a tattoo.
It was a big one, a very big tattoo.
Why would you have to go to Bali to get a tattoo?
Cheaper. He's only on about 800,000.
It never enters my head.
I can't stand the joint myself either.
It never enters my head to go to Bali.
No. Play golf in Bali.
I can think of a lot of better places to go to play golf.
Glad I brought it up.
There is.
Do you have a thought on the Tigers versus Titans? Which is at Leichhardt. The Tigers are $1.55, the Titans are $2.45.
Yes.
Adam Dewey's playing lock.
Yes, I noticed that. Very interesting selections there. Sania Taruva back to fullback. Charlie Staines on the wing. Taylor May, one game back in reserve grade. Scored 3 tries last week, albeit in the last 5 minutes of the game. Stafford Tower's in great form. Jerome Luai and Latu Fainu are starting to get a combination going there. Terrell May, Abby Coruscant, Alex Twile, Alex Seyfarth, Tony Suka, Adam Dewey. Now the bench is Tristan Hope, Sione Fainu, Fanua Pole and Jack Bird. Where's the other Fainu, Samuela?
He's injured at the moment.
What's up with him?
Knee injury.
Okay. Gold Coast.
You can't tip the Gold
Gold
Coast,
Coast.
even though you like going there on holidays. You can't tip the Gold Coast.
Gold Coast, crikey. Well, yeah, I'll go with Leichhardt Oval. Tiger.
Sunday footy. They've been in the headlines all week, and they'll be on show on our screens on Sunday. Newcastle versus the Warriors. The Knights are $2.80. The Warriors are $1.44 on tab. Now, what can I tell you? Dane Gagai's gone back to fullback. Brodie Jones in the back row because Dylan Lucas, they missed Dylan Lucas. He's a good player. And Tyson Frizzell, however, does come back into the lineup. So, they've been knocked around a bit this year too, themselves by injuries. Kirk Capel is to make a return from Origin in the centres with Rocco Berry injured. Charles Kluster is at least another week away in his return from injury. So Tane Tuapiki stays at fullback for the Warriors.
Warriors on a mission. They'll find a way to win that one. So I'm going to go Dolphin tonight. Rooster to beat Shark, just at the value. Panther to beat Rabbit. Raider to beat Eel. Storm to beat Sea Eagle, but I'm expecting a fight there. Tiger to Titan, a toss-up, but I'll go with Leichhardt Oval, Tiger. And Warrior to beat Knight. Bronco get the bye.
Very good. I'm glad you're feeling better. What games are you calling this weekend?
I'm doing Knight versus Warrior on Sunday.
Okay. Have a great weekend. Good to see you, and I'll see you next week.